Dear colleagues, my name is He Ziran. I'm from Guangdong University of Foreign Studies, China. As one of the earliest Chinese researchers in the field of pragmatics, I served as a founding president of China Pragmatics Association from 2004 to 2015. Today it is my great pleasure to share my story as a pragmatician as invited by my friend Professor Yev Vashurin. In the late 1970s, I was fascinated by the volume of Syntax and Semantics on Speech Acts and Pragmatics edited by Peter Cole and Jerry Morgan, and the monograph Semantics written by John Lyons. These two books kindled my interest in the study of pragmatics. However, I had a difficult beginning because it was hard to find books or journal articles on pragmatics in China in those days. So I was eager to study abroad so as to learn more about the subject. Happily, in 1983, I was sent to Simon Fraser University, Canada, as a visiting scholar. Under the guidance of Professor Stephen Davis, I read fairly systematically about speech act, implication, presupposition, deixis, and other classic topics in pragmatics. The work such as Anger no Goyoron, English of Pragmatics, written in 1980 by Japanese linguist Yoshinobu Mori, Pragmatics by Stephen Levinson, and The Principle of Pragmatics by Geoffrey Leach, published in 1983, impressed me most. To let me know more fellow scholars before I return to China, Professor Davis kindly wrote a letter of reference to recommend me to Professor Yev Vashurin, Secretary General of the International Pragmatics Association, or IPRA for short. At that time, the IPRA was newly established, so it was eager to involve Chinese scholars in its activities. As soon as I came back from Canada, I immediately got in touch with Yev. He was happy to enroll Chinese scholars as members of the IPRA for free. More importantly, he decided to establish an IPRA distribution center for pragmatics publications in China. The center could be self-financed to reproduce papers published by the IPRA and distribute them to pragmatics researchers across China. With support from my university, I succeeded in launching the distribution center. As we know, IPRA held its first international conference on pragmatics in Europe in 1989. In the same time, I organized China's first national conference on pragmatics at my university. I invited Professor Vashurin to attend the conference as one of the keynote speakers. Since then, we have organized a biennial national conference to advance pragmatics research in China. To date, the conference has been continuously held for more than 30 years. In 2004, with the strong support of my Chinese colleagues, I initiated the founding of China Pragmatics Association, CPRA for short, with the secretariat based in my university. Encouraging more and more Chinese young scholars to do pragmatics has always been one of my biggest commitments. Apart from the biennial conference, I also held workshops and summer seminars on pragmatics. I also gave numerous lectures on pragmatics at domestic universities even after I retired. Here, I must mention the textbooks I published in 1988, a survey of pragmatics written in Chinese. It was the first and perhaps the most popular textbook on pragmatics in China. It won the second prize in the national textbook rating organized by our Ministry of Education. I am proud that that book of mine has enlightened many young scholars and inspired a large number of students to start their research journey on pragmatics. After that, I published several other textbooks which are also widely read and cited, including Pragmatics and English Learning in 1997, Notes on Pragmatics in 2003, as well as a new survey of pragmatics in 2009, which was co-authored with Professor Zhan Yongping, my former PhD student. Early in the 1980s, I proposed the idea that contemporary linguistics should not be confined to the study of language itself, but should broaden its horizons to connect language with culture, society, psychology, cognition, and so on. In other words, researchers should explore language use and language understanding from multiple perspectives. The idea turned out to concur with that of later developed macro-pragmatics and so-called the continental school of pragmatics, namely taking pragmatics as a perspective on language. In 1993, at the invitation of Professor Michael Byron, a distinguished scholar in the field of foreign language teaching and learning, I stayed at Durham University of UK for a few months. After returning from this academic visit, I introduced the newly developed pragmatic theories to my domestic colleagues and started to combine the research of pragmatics with that of foreign language teaching. In addition, I started to reflect upon the application of pragmatics theories such as Sperber and Wilson's relevance theory to translation research and practice. From the beginning of the 21st century, I was attracted by the theory of mimetic put forward by Richard Dawkins, a famous British evolutionary biologist and animal behaviorist. It is argued that there is a replicator similar to genes in human culture, which he called meme. In my opinion, language use is full of memes that are worthy of exploration. Memetics has great explanatory power to account for many phenomena of language use. In 2014, together with my former doctoral student, Professor Chen Xinren from Nanjing University, who succeeded me as a president of CIPRA in 2015, I edited a book, Language Memes, Theory and Application, covering studies contributed by a dozen domestic scholars. Luckily, this book won the first prize of the 4th China University Press Book Award for academic works. To summarize, I have devoted myself to only two things in my career. One thing is that I have done my utmost to popularize pragmatics as a linguistic discipline. More than 24 doctoral students I instructed have now grown into experienced researchers of pragmatics. In addition, I have organized pragmatic conferences or held workshops and given a series of pragmatics lectures. What is more, I have published over 100 journal articles. The other thing is that since the beginning of this century, I have managed to introduce semantics into the study of language use, particularly that on internet-mediated communication, taking it as a new perspective of pragmatics. I am now in my 80s. I will continue to, and hope I still can join younger generations of researchers in pushing forward the field of pragmatics. Well, I wish you all great success and happiness. Thank you.